Welcome to Stand Power... Powers? Power? I guess they couldn't make up their mind. Welcome to Stand Power, parenthesis, S and parenthesis. A game that has such glowing reviews as, it's a confusing nightmare. I have no idea what to do, you'll probably hate this game. Or my personal favorite, this game is so horseshit. Please play it. Stand Power, parenthesis, S and parenthesis, is a game that I haven't talked about. It's been around for a hot minute. You know, it's got the fancy effects, it's got the fancy animations, and it's one of the few Roblox JoJo games that I haven't covered that has a small cult following. And because it's one of the last of its kind that I haven't talked about, I've been getting a lot of requests for it recently. Because as I whittle down talking about these games and talking about how terrible they are, there's less and less for people to send me. And this feels like one of, if not the last one. So hopefully this will be sort of the end of an era in a sense. Regardless, Stand Power, parenthesis, S and parenthesis, is what you get when someone sets off to make a fighting game, but they don't actually look into what actually makes a fighting game before they make it. And by that I mean, there are some serious integral flaws to the gameplay that just make me have to question my sanity. Because it is very, very clear to me that this game desperately needed a super bar of some sort, and because it doesn't have one, well, I'm just gonna come out and say it. It's a pile of shit. Normally I wait a little bit of time to talk about the gameplay, and I just sort of talk about my experience with the game, and we'll get there, but I feel like I have to start off with gameplay this time around, because it's horrific. So, someone thought it would be a good idea to take the YBA idea of giving every single stand, and I presume spec, not that I got any of them, because I couldn't figure out how, what else is new, 800 moves. And have a bunch of those moves combo into each other. So of course, when you combine that with a spec, you get massive combos that do way too much damage. So if we've got massive combos that do way too much damage, obviously we need to have some sort of balancing factor here, otherwise if you get hit once, you die. Okay, well, let's give every single stand in the game an evasive. Seems pretty reasonable. So, at any point during stun, regardless of what stand you have, you can press Z and it will break you out of a combo. Good idea. Not against that whatsoever. It's one of the few ways to make these sorts of games work, except for the fact that the cooldown on this evasive is pretty long. Oh, and while we're on the topic of cooldowns, every single cooldown for basically any of your moves is absurd. This is like the recipe for the perfect unfun game in my opinion. Having a whole bunch of moves, but not being able to use the ones that you actually want to use without having to wait upwards of 30 seconds. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times while I was playing this game, I would go to attack someone and I'd press the button for my bind in order to do an attack that I wanted to use, and it just wouldn't happen. And why wouldn't it happen? Because it was still on cooldown, because you can only use your moves every half a minute. Half of your moves you can't use for over 30 seconds. What the fuck? It's just borderline infuriating. It's not like the combat is overly complicated or too hard to figure out. Aside from the block key, I think you can block. I'm pretty sure somebody blocked. I don't know how to do it. I pressed a bunch of keys. I didn't figure it out. I don't care to figure it out. And nobody else seemed to be blocking, so I don't know if it's even worth blocking ever. But, you know, regardless, it's not hard to play this game. You just figure out what buttons you press in the correct order, and if somebody does an evasive, you dash backwards. And that's basically the entire combat system, except for you have to wait 30 seconds to use anything. I just sit here and I scratch my head at how a game like this didn't get an ultimate bar of some kind or meter management. And you guys know me. I'm not a meter guy. I don't like meters. I much prefer having static cooldowns and being able to use moves without having to do a bunch of damage or any of that kind of stuff. But when you have a combat system like this, well, if you don't use a meter, here's the result. A dumpster fire. Anyways, that's the combat. I got that out of the way right off the bat. What about the rest of the game? What rest of the game? Joke's on you, there isn't a rest of the game. Well, not really anyway, or at the very least not that I could find. As far as I could tell, there's no NPCs that do anything of any sort of note. You need to go to certain NPCs with certain stands, I presume to get quests in order to either level them up or what have you. And there was also a bunch of NPCs that asked me for money in order to learn different skills or specs, and I couldn't figure out how to get money. Shocking, I know, not being able to figure things out in these games. So I couldn't use any of those things. So in other words, there's not really much to talk about in terms of the rest of the game. I could tell you about how the audio balancing is once again absolutely miserable, just like it is in a lot of these games, because somebody, I guess, thought that this car horn should be able to be heard across the entire map. I'd really love to know who made that decision, or if it wasn't a conscious decision, how nobody's noticed at this point that no matter where you are in the map, you constantly hear car horns going off, and it's incredibly obnoxious. It's Roblox developers. They don't play their own games, I guess. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I can also tell you about the skins, because I never thought I would say this, but the skins actually detract from the game instead of making it better. I didn't think that was possible, but here we are. I guess because stand power (S) and parenthesis is a game where you don't have a whole lot to do, they figured people wouldn't wait around for a long time or really grind for skins, so they made the chance of you getting a skin seemingly higher than you getting a normal stand. I don't know if there was an event going on, I don't know if I'm just really lucky, or unlucky for that matter, but it seemed like, or no, it didn't seem like, I just straight up did pull more skins than I did normal stands. And I'm a boring guy when it comes to JoJo stuff. I have a high tendency of just liking the default designs because those are the designs I like. I like looking at the stands that Araki created, not getting Enderman or Vegeta. Speaking of Vegeta, oh my god. How could they have designed this skin and been so foolish? I have no idea. Once again, on the sound design department, well, just listen. That plays the whole time you have the stand out. The whole time. So when I rolled this stand and I got Vegeta the World, or whatever the hell this was supposed to be, I got rid of it. I didn't want it. I threw it in my inventory immediately because I wanted the world. I wanted to use the world. And eventually I got the world, which was also a skin. A really cool looking skin, mind you. Something that in a better game, I would probably be really quite hyped to get. I think the effects, and especially the little clock in the background that shows up and spins around, I think that's really cool. I like the skin. It's just not in a very good game. But regardless, the Vegeta skin has this aura around it at all times that constantly emits a sound effect. Why? Could we not have bypassed that? Maybe? No, clearly not. And then of course, I don't know if this was a bug or not, but look at this. This is a skin. What is this monstrosity? I just don't understand how the developers could go through, put something like this together and go, man, people are gonna love this. And I don't know how you get Tusk Act 4. I don't know if it's a big quest line, but imagine it is. Imagine you go through a big quest line and you get to the end of it and you summon your Tusk Act 4 and it's a big fucking box. That sucks. That sucks so bad. Like, what the hell? Stand power (S) and parenthesis also has the slowest healing in any video game ever. Bar none. You can't top it. Just look at this. Look at it. What is this? There's no way anybody tested this. There's no fucking way. Absolutely no way. Look how long this takes. You're standing still for more than a minute. As for combat hitboxes, well, they're fucking horrible. Shocking, I know. I don't even think I have much else to say about it other than they suck. You knew they'd suck. It's one of these kinds of games. The menu has a lot to be desired. As I already said, I couldn't figure out how to block, and I also couldn't figure out how to rebind controls. I'm pretty sure that's because you cannot rebind controls. So having your dash bound to Q and your run bound to control is something that you're just sort of stuck with. Speaking of the dash, it has a delay built into it. I don't know if this was on purpose. I don't know why this happened. I don't know how this happened, but it's there. I know it's there. And if you've played this game, you also know it's there. Is it a long delay? Not really, but is it enough for you to feel it every single time you go to dash and have it feel bad? You bet it is. At the end of the day, stand power parenthesis SN parenthesis is really just ABD with extra steps. Or I don't even know if it's really ABD with extra steps. Maybe we'll just go with it's ABD with extra animations. That's probably more fair. The animations are cool. I like them. I wish they were in a better game. Really, I think that's the trend here. Every time I look at the good things in this game, all I can think to myself is, I wish this was in a better game. So that's the takeaway from this game. Go play a better game.